for the June 13, 2023 meeting of the Kentucky Opioid Abatement Advisory Commission. And at this time, I will call the roll. State Treasurer Allison Ball or her designee, Ms. Lauren Ferguson.
Lauren Ferguson, President, proxy. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Danny Bentley.
He is here, but he walked into the meeting. We're trying to get him.
So he will be attending by Zoom. He's migrating from one Zoom link to another.
That is correct. Yes.
Understood.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Vic Brown. Here. Ms. Karen Butcher.
Here.
Mr. Carlos Cameron. Secretary Eric Friedlander.
Here.
Director Van Ingram.
Here.
Ms. Von Purdy.
Here.
Thank
Almost
you.
there.
Dr. Jason Root. Here. Dr. Sharon Walsh.
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. Our business meeting schedule, just for purposes of making sure we all know it, that it is broadcast to the public through our live stream. Our business meetings for the remainder of the year are July 11, 2023, August 8, 2023, September 12th, 2023, October 17, 2023, November 14, 2023, and December 12, 2023. All meetings will occur at 1 p.m. Eastern Time at 1024 Capitol Center Drive, Suite 200, Frankfort, Kentucky, 40601. At this time, please take a moment to review the minutes distributed by commission staff if you have not had an opportunity to review them before they were sent out last week. Is there a motion that the minutes be approved as presented?
So moved. Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are adopted. In terms of the executive director's updates, there are 3 points I will cover today. The first pertains to commission member reappointments by an executive order that was issued last week. HIDA Director Vic Brown, Ms. Karen Butcher, and Ms. Von Purdy have been reappointed to serve what will now be a 2-year term on the commission. And that executive order was drafted and signed last week. I am pleased to report that we have completed the sponsorship bid process for the opioid conference that we have been talking about that is scheduled to occur in Lexington, Kentucky on October 8th through the 10th, 2023. The sponsor will be the Kentucky Association of Health Plans. We had an initial conference call this morning with the Kentucky Association of Health Plans designated representative Tom Stevens, as well as commission staff to discuss the progression of logistics leading up to the October 8 through 10 conference. And there will be a lot more information to share during our July meeting in terms of the planning and the venue, as well as solicitation of feedback from membership as to the way in which we need to compose our tracks. And then on May 31, which would be 2 weeks ago this past Wednesday, through the Attorney General's office, we had an announcement where all commission members were invited to discuss the possibility of this commission exploring the potential development and support for funding of Abatement for its application to opioid use disorder. Now, for purposes of today, I want to make a couple of things clear based on the media reporting, which has been spotty in terms of accuracy. Number one, no declaration of a commitment of funds has been made whatsoever. Anyone can go back and listen to the announcement that is posted online. At this stage in the game, the only thing that we aim to do is to explore the possibilities related to Abatement, its applicability as a therapeutic to opioid use disorder. And then the second question is whether and to what extent this commission would commit funds to help develop Abatement as a therapeutic to go through the FDA approval process. We're a good bit away from answering that question. The first order of business is to determine whether this is a pathway that should be pursued through an exploration of what Abatement is. We want to make sure we educate ourselves on whether or not what we see here has legitimacy. And to that end, we will later in this agenda take a look at some public hearing dates that will be proposed to do just that. The second thing is when it comes to the public hearings, insofar as we decide to have them on this subject, the first would be focused on the science. And witnesses will be identified who I think I can comfortably describe as individuals who are consensus experts on ibogaine, individuals who are at the top of their respective fields when it comes to ibogaine and its various potential clinical uses. And insofar as we move forward with public hearings, there will be a list of those witnesses distributed for everybody to see. Again, it's important to know that we have not made a commitment of funds. Nobody is committing funds to the commission. The only way that that can happen is through a commission vote. And we've got a ways to go before there's any motion or the appropriateness of a motion to be made to commit funds. To the extent that we move forward with public hearings, the very intent of those hearings is to have full, vigorous examination of any and all aspects of ibogaine and whether or not we should get ourselves involved in it. So whatever anybody's individual position may be, as we sit here today, when we have these hearings, nothing is taboo, nothing is off limits, and I invite my colleagues around this table to be as aggressive and vigorous of your cross-examination of the expert witnesses who we identified to bring forward as you wish to be. We will also make sure that curriculum vitae of the individuals are circulated among membership so that you know who is coming in advance and you can prepare yourself accordingly with whatever you wish to ask that is germane to the topic. And so with that, we come to our subcommittee breakouts. At this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn for purposes of the assembly of the subcommittees. Treatment and recovery will be in conference room C. Prevention, reform, and compliance will be in conference room D.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned into subcommittees. When they're done, we'll need y'all to come back in, make a motion to reconvene.
So moved.
Seconded,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Let's start with the adoption of subcommittee meeting times. We'll begin with treatment and recovery. And Ms. Shavies and Ms. Telfair, would you mind to read for the record the proposed meeting dates for the treatment and recovery subcommittee?
The motion was to cancel the June 28th meeting, to schedule the July meeting as July 11th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Schedule August 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Schedule September 20th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Schedule October 31st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And then we will table November and December dates until the next meeting.
Is there a motion that the meeting schedule of the treatment and recovery subcommittee as recited by Ms. Allison Shavies be adopted?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Next item is the adoption of the prevention, reform, and compliance subcommittee meeting dates, times, and locations. Shavies, will you read those off, please? Or Ms. Telfair?
Yes, for July, we discussed July 25th from 12 noon to 2 p.m. August will be August 22nd from 12 noon to 2 p.m. September will be September 26th from 12 noon to 2 p.m. October will be October 31st from 12 noon to 2 p.m. November will be November 28th, 12 noon to 2 p.m. And December will be December 5th from 12 noon to 2 p.m.
All right,
All here at East location.
thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the meeting schedule for the prevention, reform, and compliance subcommittee as recited by Mrs. Enyon Telfair?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Now move to the next item of new business, and that is the question of conducting public hearings related to Abatement. Insofar as these public hearings are conducted, the meeting times and locations are as follows. July 17, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Administrative Office of the Courts Building at 1001 Vandalay Drive, Frankfort, Kentucky, 40601, Conference Room A, 125. The second hearing would occur on August 16, 2023, from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Administrative Office of the Courts Building at 1001 Vandalay Drive, Frankfort, Kentucky, 40601, Conference Room A, 125. Is there a motion to adopt and to proceed with public hearings based on the dates, times, and locations I've just articulated?
Is there a point to maybe have discussion?
There will be a point to have discussion on this motion to adopt the public hearing schedule once a motion is made and seconded.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When does the committee members get to discuss this information?
That is the purpose of the public hearings, is to have a full-fledged discussion, questions asked, observations made of experts who will be called in.
So it'll be during these two times that the committee members of the commission would speak.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up.
Yes, sir.
First, let me say how much I've appreciated the way that these meetings have been conducted and the open discussion we've all been able to have about things that are difficult, things that are hard. But I have concerns with a specific discussion around Ibogaine before this committee can have that discussion. I had concerns, just being straight up, that, even, and I appreciate your clarification earlier in the meeting, but that was very, very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
However, having a press conference about something feels more fait accompli than perhaps you were intending to impart. But I too saw coverage, which basically was saying the task force was in agreement, which of course I for one am not. And so I feel like part of what we've been able to do here is have these discussions about proposals within our subcommittees, among ourselves. And I feel like that didn't happen here, which is to me a disappointment. I'm just being straight. Even today feels like it's not welcome. And so, it feels like if we can have a press conference, surely we can have a discussion.
Thank you for that, Secretary. And let me assure you that I wish for there to be full-fledged, unimpeded, uninhibited cross-examination, questions, and discussions within the context first of the two public hearings, and then insofar as we move forward to consider the allocation of money, a similar discussion. There will be no shortage of time for the conduct of discussion among ourselves in a public setting, as well as between ourselves individually and as colleagues. I don't wish for there to be any sense that vigorous opinion not be expressed, whether it aligns with whatever my position or anyone else's may be. I see part of our job as a commission to explore any and all possibilities that may exist to add efficacy to our current efforts to bring the opioid epidemic under control within the state. And I also want to say that if we get into this and we find that what I have had my eyes on for the past months is smoke without fire or lacks legitimacy, then we will come to that conclusion and move on from this exploratory stage without any aim at a predetermined conclusion. So insofar as there was communication out of me, which seemed to speak for others who hold different opinions, then I regret the lack of artfulness of my own comments. I want to make clear, everybody here is an individual. I'm just simply utilizing my position as chair to create an agenda and the exploration of a possibility. And nobody should feel inhibited about expressing opinion at the point in time at which we're ready to have those discussions.
And I appreciate that. I really do. And we've had we've all had offline discussions about what's possible and what's new, particularly in the area of psychedelics, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about. And so, I think there's probably a fruitful discussion around a broad approach to that. I am concerned about something specific, but there's emerging science all over the place around depression and anxiety and things like that. And there are avenues for that. And again, I appreciate that we will have the opportunity to discuss. Again, just wish we'd had it before press conference.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask a question? So, without respect to the specific compound, but just the idea that the money could be used to explore something like this. Because I understand it, so I'm looking for you to correct under any misunderstanding I have. Some of the money, half of the money is going directly to the communities for them to do with what they want. And the rest is under the purview of the commission. And our guidance that's in writing is that the funding has to go for things that are evidence-based. And so for any medication in the United States, the evidence base is that it's FDA approved. So how does that fit into doing something that's exploratory with something that's not approved if it doesn't?
One of the statutory provisions, KRS 15291 subsection 5, lists all of the relevant priorities for which this money can be allocated. And within that is language that would support this effort insofar as it recognizes that the commission may allocate resources for any projects it deems appropriate to combat the opioid epidemic. we are well within our legal ability to explore. And if the decision is made to devote funds, to devote those funds to research before medically assisted treatment was FDA approved and therefore evidence-based, it had to be explored. And that's the only thing we're seeking to do here is explore at this stage. Any further questions, comments about the motion to adopt the public hearing schedule?
Mr. Chairman, I think we should discuss it today.
Go ahead, Ms. Purdy. The motion on the floor is to adopt the public hearing schedule, and that is what the discussion will be centered around. And I haven't answered these preliminary questions. Ms. Purdy?
I just had a question about have the participants already been identified? Is there room for more at these hearings? There'll be a variety of voices.
There will be, the very first public hearing is going to be related to the science of Ibogaine. And that means that the experts that we will identify and ask to come in are individuals whose research lives and professional time has been spent developing expertise related to it. They are the subject matter experts, recognized consensus within the scientific community that focuses on Ibogaine.
So Brian, in the field, like, because this is my field of study, I do medications development. There are mixed opinions about this, as I'm
Certainly.
sure you know. So will there be the counterpoint voices at this, or is it just going to be the people who are trying to develop it?
The individuals who will be present are the subject matter experts, as I have come to learn and understand them to be. So one of the names that is out there as a potential witness is a Dr. Deborah Mash.
Yeah, I know Debbie.
All right. That is an individual, as an example of the experts we would call. If an individual is not recognized as an expert related to Ibogaine, they will likely not be at this July public hearing. Having said that, we're going to have at least two. So if there are individuals that you would like to have appear in an expert capacity or anyone else in August to address it, then we would certainly work to include them on that agenda.
The folks who made the motion, and I don't know if this can be entertained or not. I almost wonder if we could broaden it, right? Because I think maybe we're talking about, at least, I don't know if we're not. If we broadened it to some folks who wanted to talk about psychedelic research, that feels broader than an individual drug. But maybe that's out of order. I don't know.
The efficacy of Ibogaine pertains specifically to opioid use disorder. And again, in the amount of examination of this subject that I've done, while there are other psychedelic therapeutics that are near the end of the FDA approval process pipeline, and others that are within 2 years, MDMA being one, psilocybin being another, neither of those, at least developmentally, appear to have efficacy related to opioid withdrawal syndrome, which is the specific aspect of opioid use disorder for which there is application of Ibogaine. And that is why there is the specific focus to make sure that we are honed in on the issue of opioid use disorder and Ibogaine's effects on the resolution of opioid withdrawal. Any other questions at this time?
I think I want to make a comment. So if the focus is on opioid withdrawal, we have medications that are already approved for opioid withdrawal. It's not something that is difficult to manage clinically. And there are protocols that have been in place for 30 some years. And most recently, there was a drug that was approved that was developed right here in Kentucky called lofexidine that has a specific FDA indication for opioid withdrawal. So to me, I'm not 100% clear. Those are very effective drugs. I'm not sure why we need other drugs to target opioid withdrawal.
Well, there are others who would seem to believe that this is worth exploring. Individuals who are scientifically credentialed to believe that it has breakthrough therapeutic potential. I want to know if that's true.
Right.
And that's why we're having this exploration.
So.
don't want to get bogged down in a discussion of the pluses or minuses of Ibogaine, because that's the purposes of having the public hearings. And I'm
Right.
not in a position with the lack of scientific credential to give specific responses to scientific questions. That's why we're bringing in the experts to do that very thing.
Okay, so I guess the final thing that I'll say, I have known Deborah Mash for 30 some years, and she's been working on this since the 1990s. She's the CEO of a company that's trying to develop it. So if she's going to come and talk to us about the development of this with the, with the hope of getting money, there's a clear conflict of interest from a person who has ownership of a company whose sole purpose is to get the drug to market. So
We've not-
that's why I'm asking for balance.
Certainly, and again, insofar as there are individuals who with the expert credentials to offer alternative views, please share those with commission staff and myself, so as we get ready to set the panel, we can have that done.
I don't know that this really doesn't have anything to do with the motion, and it's not scientifically based at all. So I don't know if it's appropriate.
Let's take care of this motion that is
Thank
on the table, then we'll
Yes.
move to that.
Yes.
There has been a motion that has been seconded. Any further discussion related to the motion to adopt the public hearing schedule? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, and I'd like to explain my vote.
Sure. Representative Bentley, was that an aye or a no?
I'm opposed.
All right. Representative Bentley opposed,
And-
Secretary Friedlander opposed.
Yes.
Sure.
The reason I'm opposed is it feels too narrow, and it feels too specific. And I would have much rather had the discussion here before a press conference and before we really were presented with a motion and couldn't have full discussion. So based on those two things, I vote no.
Thank you. Is there any abstention?
Would you want me to discuss my opposing view?
Sure. Please, Representative Bentley, do so.
Knowing that this drug cannot get a new drug application in the United States is what the FDA has said. That's the reason I oppose.
I couldn't
Can
hear
we
what he
repeat
said.
that?
Mind to repeat that, Representative Bentley? Folks didn't hear you.
Right now, all the research on this drug is outside the United States because the FDA will not give an NDA, a new drug application for it. So that's the reason I'm opposed.
Thank you. Motion carries. Public hearings will occur on July 17, 2023 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Administrative Office of the Courts Building, 1001 Vandelay Drive, Frankfurt, 40601, Conference Room A125. And then second, August 16, 2023, 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Administrative Office of the Courts Building, 1001 Vandelay Drive, Frankfurt, Kentucky, 40601, Conference Room A125. This takes us to public announcements. Oh, Ms. Butcher, you said that you had a remark not related to this motion. Is this something?
I can wait till the public hearing.
All right, very good. Any public comments and remarks for today? All right, hearing none, we'll then move to.
Sorry.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
we have. Ms. Alice Keisto, were you wishing to speak publicly?
No, somebody told me that was a sign-in sheet, so I
All
signed.
right, very good, very good. Thank you for meeting their request. All right, any updates or announcements? And we'll start down with Director Ingram. Go, sir. Thank you.
I don't know, those of you that attended the Judicial and Mental Health Conference a couple of weeks ago, that's where I was at the press conference. Over 1,000 folks attended. Discussion included behavioral health, substance use, individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities. It was really a good conference. Lots of discussion, really important issues that I think will dovetail with this group here about best practices, about court practices, about diversion, about multiple crisis, around issues around equity. It was a really impressive conference, and I'd just like to compliment here the staff, the administrative office of the courts, and the courts themselves for really leading what was, I think, challenging discussion. And I think it's amazing they did it so quickly and had over 1,000 members. So high bar for the opioid, high bar, but I know that it's possible. And I just, if they do it again, which I've kind of said, you know, we should do this yearly, because if there's 1,000 people that go, there had to be an appetite for it. I would love to see us have some either role or maybe even, I don't know if there's, probably not within the scope of this group, but at least the invitation, and I probably should have sent to everybody on this committee, so my bad. But I think it would have been a really good conference for all of us to attend.
We all did.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I think
Yeah, we did. We were there.
it was important. It was really important. And so I just want to, yeah, you presented,
Yeah.
that's right.
You sure did. Did
Yeah.
you go?
I did not, I was presenting.
Oh,
Yeah, I just wanted to give that a shout out. So it was impressive. So I just wanted to say that.
Director.
Yeah, I do have one thing to report. Dr. March and I tomorrow will be presenting at the Kentucky Magistrates and Commissioners Association. And we'll be talking about strategies to spend their money locally. If you remember, Dr. March was our first presenter at our first meeting. And so we're going to go over some of the things the state's doing and just really encourage our magistrates, commissioners, our county judges to come up with a plan for their dollars that are coming in over the next 18 years. Not to jump at the shiniest, newest thing of the block, but to come up with a good.
And you're doing that tomorrow?
Yep. It's 11 o'clock at the Marriott.
And hopefully we'll be making an announcement about the Department of Community-Based Services Commissioner and the Behavioral Health Commissioner on Friday. I hope we'll keep my fingers crossed.
I just wanted to make sure I knew what the date of the opioid conference was, because when we went through those items, we were going fast and I didn't get the date.
October 8th through the 10th,
8th through the 10th. And is it
Lexington.
Lexington? Thank you.
Well, Ms. Telfair,
What I have to say.
Ms. Shades.
You should have calendar invites for the conference in your emails. I can resend those after the meeting. Also, just a clarification on the locations for the application review meetings. Those are going to be held here at the east. That's the location.
All right, location, subcommittee meetings, 1024 Capitol Summer Drive, Suite 200. Frankfurt 40601. Ms. Purdy?
No, fine. Again, apologies for being late.
Dr. Ruth?
Nothing else to share. Thank you.
Director Brown?
Nothing for sure.
Ms. Butcher?
I don't have anything.
Ms. Ferguson?
I'm good. Thank you, Brian.
All right. I don't have any other updates or announcements. Thanks, everybody, for your public service. And we'll make sure that this world knows that everybody who's a commission member here serves this commission out of civic duty that they feel in their hearts to do so for the people of the state. Oh, Representative Bentley, any announcements?
Yes, sir. The CDC is recognizing Kentucky as a leader in the crisis for the fight against opioid. So they're taking me to Portland, Oregon on June the 20th for about 4 days of discussion. So pray for me in Portland, Oregon.
We'll be around some beautiful geographic scenery. I'm envious. All right. If nothing further, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? We are adjourned.